AMA, where we as players get to ask Atlas Earth staff anything. I am your host, Shane Kelly. You know me in game, Discord, and Reddit as SSC Kelly. And thank you all for submitting your questions, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we can. First, let's meet our panelist, Elizabeth, our Atlas Earth marketing guru and Atlas game contestant. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks, Shane. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I'm the VP of Marketing for Atlas Earth and then also for the Atlas Games. As you can see here, representing Team Yellow. If you haven't watched the video yet, search Atlas Games in YouTube and give us a comment and like and let us know what you think. More to come.
I still have bruises.
I was going
Like
to
they
ask you
haven't.
about that, Sami. How are the bruises? How are they healing?
The one on my knee is gone, which was taken for a short. The one that I got shot in the chest by our other marketing guy, Kyle, is gone.
Was that the
That
one at point
one,
blank range where he's like,
yes, yes, that was not fun. The two on my back that the army guy shot me are still there. Albeit much smaller, but yeah, he wasn't messing around.
so
And
Annalise, our new community manager, when are we going to see you in one of these running around that course?
Well, it entirely depends on if you guys come a little bit closer to this part of the United States.
Fair.
You're on the wrong side of the Mississippi River at the moment.
totally fine.
Hey, let's talk more about the Atlas games. Success? Would you guys
Yeah,
say?
yeah, so far so good. We're probably closing in on 100,000 views in the first month, which for us was kind of the internal goal. Obviously, I think a lot of people were not expecting this. Um, and so, I think people are going to start finding out what the Atlas Games is really about because all I can say for our insiders listening in on this call and watching this AMA later is every episode's going to be different.
Okay.
So, what I can tell you is next episode has no paintball at all, and no wheel spins, and no throwing giant garden gnomes at a wall full of sugar glass. So, every episode will be very different. The impetus, Shane, and I know you didn't ask, but I just wanted people to understand this, is we just felt like in everything we do, we give back. When we spend, when advertisers spend money with us, we give a bit of that back. When hotels give us a commission, we give some of that back. And when we spend marketing, we've just been spending marketing. We've been lining the pockets of Google and Zuckerberg. And so Elizabeth and I had that moment of like, hey, why doesn't any of our marketing dollars go back to our own players? And that was really the genesis of the Atlas Games, which is this idea that our community can actually, it goes twofold. Now the community feels like they can be part of something even bigger, right? I hope that a year from now, these monthly episodes are garnering, if not tens of millions of views, at least a million views of video, right? So all of a
Right.
sudden you're like, we can create, internet celebs and people see that there's a bigger picture beyond just grinding for dollars at a time. Um, and I think that's the other thing is we wanted to introduce some unpredictability to the world of Atlas, which is right now everything can be done on a calculator. But the moment you realize, hey, I have a shot to go win thousands of dollars or potentially 10,000 plus dollars, that calculator goes out the window, you know? So anyways, that's kind of the impetus of it, and we're really excited to see it expand. And it is something we're committed to fully. We've already filmed episode 2. We're about to film episode 3 and 4. And these are like real, like legit TV production style things.
Okay. So how do people participate?
Well, all you have to do is be a player of Atlas Earth, really, because you can go into the settings of the app right now, and there's a apply to be on the show button within the app. And what I would give as advice is we read all the contestants. And just because you
Okay.
applied last week and you don't end up on the next episode doesn't mean you're out. Because what we plan to do is we have very different episodes, different themes. One might be, a little music leaning, one might be food leaning. So please take the extra time to say, hey, I'm a foodie, I'm a chef, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer. You never know when those skill sets will apply to the episodes. And so that's really, really important. We want to showcase our community. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Like, who would have known that there's people in our community who are good at this or good at that or whatever? If you're a farmer, let us know you're a farmer. Like it, all these things are all potentially things that we will come back to and highlight. So go into the settings app. It's a long application process, but we want as much information as possible. So then, when episode 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, when we're talking about it, it's like, hey, do we have somebody who can do this in this episode? We can go back, comb through the thousands of contestants, and pick the right people.
Sami, this sounds like something they only have a player only has to do once, right? Because once you have
Yeah,
that data in there, then you're basically going through it for every single episode,
that's
and a
correct.
person wouldn't have to go back in 6 months from now and reapply.
No, unless you want to update what you originally
Okay,
wrote, right? But yeah.
that makes sense. Now, next question: will these games ever be global? Can international players apply for these games?
Yeah. Well, as you know, we always like starting the US because that's our home base, but we've already talked about should the Atlas Games be successful, we can take a trip and do the Atlas Games Europe and things like that, right? Obviously, there's added costs of flying the team and things like that. So if we go out to Europe to do it or go out to Australia to do it, we would probably do a couple episodes or a few episodes from that locale versus just doing it as a one and done. As far as legalities, there's really nothing stopping us from filming internationally. So the answer is never say never. Right now, we are focused on just getting our sea legs. This is the first time we're trying to do this type of content. So we try to not introduce too much entropy all at once. But yeah, the goal is that we are called Atlas Earth. And we haven't forgotten that. And one of our goals is to bring awareness to all corners of the globe, and in the short term, bring awareness to all corners of this country as well in the United States.
And will the format be pretty much players versus staff? I gotta say, Elizabeth, you were fantastic in the games. I mean, you know how to handle a paintball gun.
Thank you. It was actually my first time ever holding a paintball gun, and I honestly
Really?
thought I would have been found very quickly in hide and seek, but I think I lucked out on both games.
I know there are people out there, I've read comments where people claim that it was staged or whatever. It was
Right.
completely unscripted. It irks me when people say that. I would have loved for Bradley to find her. And I wasn't there. I was behind the scenes. So watching the film back, it's like painful because, I joke, it's like, Bradley, there's no way you confused her with somebody. She didn't have a camera. Like she was ducking down, like,
It was also a
but
lot darker than the video
yes.
showed. Like
Yeah,
it
that is
looked
true.
very light in
It
the
was.
video, but
Yep.
it was completely pitch black. So in fairness to him, my outfit completely blended in with my surroundings.
Because
Yeah.
didn't he
But
say later he actually did see you, but thought you were like a staging person or something?
Correct. And then I
Yeah.
argued with, it's hide and go seek. When you find someone
hiding.
hiding, you should question it.
But yeah,
So go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, how often can we expect these to occur?
Once a month.
Oh, okay.
Once a month. And yeah,
Excellent.
so the next video is coming out here right around Halloween.
And that first one was in the New Orleans area, right?
The
So
the
we can.
first one was in Austin. Since you mentioned New Orleans, I'll go ahead and say that the second episode will be in New Orleans.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Didn't know that was a secret.
No, it's not. Well, you know.
Not anymore, anyway.
Let's
So, all right. Hey, let me go on. I've got a lot of questions here, Sami.
do it. Let's do it.
First of all, I do want to re-ask a question from the last AMA, and the reason why is I completely framed it wrong, and I had a
Okay.
lot of people wanting me to ask this question. Your community loves data. A lot of people do. They love data. Would you ever be open to allowing your players to view their own user data, like through the web app? Things like AB collected, where that came from, money spent, that sort of thing.
I would say yes. There's nothing preventing us from having that except for focusing on that versus other features, but the answer is yes. Sorry, we have no problem with it. The answer is yes. We could probably, we've talked about mini game win ratios,
Mm-hmm.
um, total mini games played, all sorts of things. We had concepted a profile view, but it just got too heavy and too much. But the answer is yes, we would do that probably on the web app because the web app is better for the
Right,
heavy hardcore users.
right. Annalise, did I get it right that time, you think?
I'm assuming I wasn't one of the people who asked it, but sounds similar
No,
to
but you were
what they
involved.
were asking.
Perfect. All right. Hey, another question. This comes from Tough Guy 22. We see him both on Reddit and Discord. Are there any features that you wanted to add, but turned out just to be too difficult to implement?
Yes. Um, but no. I'll give an example. Landmarks have been a start stop for years, and I think I alluded to this in a previous MA, which is we got close and it was just not perfect, right? It just wasn't where it needs to be such a big feature. So we kind of rethought it. Another one was we wanted to customize lands, basically allow people to build houses or whatever they wanted on their lands. And you guys don't know this, but we've spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in almost a Minecraft slash Roblox style creator tool in the web app for years. And then generative AI came out, and we are looking at it, scratching our heads, going, man, you could literally give it a voice prompt or a text prompt to get, spit you out a castle. Yet the alternative that we're kind of working on is more blocky style, which already felt like in the past, even before we released it. So when I say yes and no is yes, we've had features that we haven't released that we have worked on, believe it or not. No, in the sense that we will eventually release them. It's just that we wanted to get it right and do it the right way. So, there's a lot of stuff happening in behind the scenes that you guys may or may not be aware of. We don't talk about all the fails and successes, if you will. But yes, we always go through stuff where we build it. And another example now is like community feed. Look, is a good start in alpha, but we recognize we need to make mobile upload. So like instead of rolling it out further, we paused and we're working on mobile upload. We realized that the time between swipes on videos were a little slow. So I told the team we got to optimize that. So these take an extra month. Community feed is unique because some people have already been exposed to the alpha of that. So they know that we're working on it and improving it. But there are plenty of stuff that never made it to alpha that we're still working on improving, right? And I want everyone who watches this to know we've got multiple teams of engineers, right, that go off in pairs or trios. There's a trio working on landmarks for like the last 8 months on the version that we know will release. There's a duo working on community feed on the back end. There's a duo working on new versions of mini games and new mini games. There's a team out in the Netherlands that's about 5 people designing like the next 5 mini games. So we're doing like a lot of things at once.
I'm glad you brought that up, Sami, because there was a narrative going around on Reddit that these Atlas games that you come out with is somehow keeping you from
Oh yeah,
focused
yeah.
on doing landmarks.
Oh yeah.
But
My
it sounds
favorite.
like to me you've got go ahead, you've got people dedicated to
Listen,
certain projects.
Elizabeth, have you ever written a line of code in your life?
No.
Okay. So for anyone watching, Elizabeth is not working on any feature that would ever work in the app, and you do not want Elizabeth, Kyle, or Colby, or Derek, or me working on the app because if you see us working on the app, that's the death of the app, right? Like, no, there are people. a much bigger team, 3x the size of the team that you've actually even bigger than that. We have 30 people at this company.
And I think
So
it's important call out. And our engineers didn't even touch Atlas Games. It
at
was
all,
released on YouTube. So just have no fear. Like we are not taking away engineering resources from the app for Atlas Games.
or artists,
Yeah.
or
Or a lot of revenue
QA.
towards
Yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah,
you're not
yeah.
spending a ton of money making these videos, right? You're still plugging it more back into the app. That was
And
another narrative going around.
you know the Atlas Games videos do make Atlas Reality money when people watch it on YouTube and they watch the shorts and things like that. So
Exactly.
it all is a wash and it's all good for the app on a holistic level. So I'll pause there,
So
but yeah.
since we did bring up landmarks, I get this asked every single time. What's your timeline on landmarks?
Okay. The timeline is we're months, less than months away, and I'll give you the exact like things that need to happen. Okay. Number one is we have been redesigning the app visually, as everybody knows. So we're in the implementation stage now, not just redesign. The app has been redesigned. I didn't really know this because I never bothered to count. We have 138 screens in the app. Those have been redesigned. Every week now, we're about 3 weeks into implementation. We're about implementing about 10 to 12, 8 to 10 screens a week implementation wise. Okay. This is all happening in the background. Landmarks, which is a new feature, is basically traffic jammed behind the redesign because if you put yourself in my shoes, you can't have a new feature sitting looking like the old UI, right? So just because the feature gets complete, we still need the front end visuals to look like the new UI. So it doesn't make sense for us to release an old UI version of Landmarks and then have to redo yet another thing into the new UI. So there's a bit of a traffic jam. But all that to be said is it's being worked on. We've got the first handful that Annalise you pulled from Reddit. We've built those out in three-dimensional models. I think the Alamo's in there, the Statue of Liberty. Like I've seen some pretty cool stuff. So it's coming. I appreciate everybody's patience. You know, this is like there are millions of apps out there, and there's not one like Atlas Earth. I promise you, it's not as easy as people think it is. But yes, it's coming, and it is stuck behind some other things for logical purposes.
Great. Hey, let's move on and talk just a little bit about the challenge system, your ladder, the season pass. Do you have any plans for reworking the challenge ladder progressive system? And let me throw out a couple of ideas that I've got here from some of the players, like a way to be able to skip a challenge on the monthly. Maybe one could be free to someone that has the pass or that's a member of the Explorers Club, or maybe even pay Atlas bucks to get rid of one, or maybe even increasing the number of visible challenges from 10 to 12, since you did add in a mini game RPS, which
Yeah.
takes up an extra slot. Your thought on all of that, Sami?
Yeah, so we will refine this. Again, the refining of these features are kind of sitting behind the traffic jam of updating the app's UI. We're kind of on a freeze of new things because we got to get the new visuals out in order to then rework them. But we certainly always talked about a skip feature. I don't know that we'll listen. Both the skip feature and the move from 10 to 12, you understand, are both impacting the same desire, which is I want to be able to do a different challenge than the one in front of me. We'll probably, if you ask me, I'm probably going to lean more towards the skip than the move it from 10 to 12 because listen, tens of thousands of people have no problem with the 10 system right now because people are doing it. We will have to decide what the skips cost. It could be diamonds, it could be Atlas bucks, it could be an ad watch. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out, right? And what I know is we're not going to just do unlimited skips. That's the other thing. So we'll figure out a system, but the short answer of it, Shane, is yes, I think there's things we can refine to that system. And Annalise has suggested some that are in our backlog as well that we're looking into.
Well, thanks. All right, time to move on. Mini games. You know, I always get a lot of questions on mini games. First, how about the update on the fishing? Will that be released soon?
It should be hopefully this month, to be honest with you. We last thing that remains. So just so everybody knows watching this, and I've been told, by the way, not to say honestly or be honest with you, because then that implies that anything else I say is not honest. So it's a tick of mine that I'm trying to overcome. But effectively a week ago, Elizabeth and Annalise, you were there. We did a
Company wide.
company-wide test of Phishing 2.0. We found a few things that weren't perfect. Well, listen, I don't think anything's perfect even when it gets out, but we tried to play it and we realized a couple things that were bugs. And we should have a new version that we're going to do a company-wide test probably early next week. And we expect that to be the hopefully the last company-wide test. It should have been done this week, but Unity, I don't know if there's any techies watching, but Unity had some, which is the game engine we use, had some like security risk, and they forced everybody to upgrade the Unity version. And when you upgrade a Unity version, it caused a couple of new bugs to show up. And so that set us back. That was kind of out of our control. But phishing is, I will say, days away. And then, of course, we have to go through the Apple approval and everything like that. And I'm also excited to tell you guys that Racer is already in progress as well in terms of the development and everything like that. Um,
Great.
yeah, and we've learned our lesson from rock, paper, scissors. I think that'll be probably the last time we do a psychological game until we introduce emotes, and then maybe I'll bring it back. We'll always have it there. But I'm really obsessed next year, and I know Shane, this goes into questions later about adding astronaut customizations, emotes that can be sent during mini games to kind of like mess with your opponent a little bit or brag or cry or whatever. And I know you guys have seen this in other real-time games that you play on apps. I've played them. So there's a lot there, but yeah, mini games, I would say through the end of 2026 will continue to evolve in a big way. If we're talking, 10 AMAs from now and mini games are exactly the same as they are today, I would be shocked. I think mini games
Right.
overall, one of my really, really big things I want to do in 2026 is really, really ratchet up how fun Atlas Earth is. And that's like a big, big thing for me in 2026. And that starts with the mini games, starts with the practice halls for the mini games, and so much more.
Great. And a lot of users notice that the fishing in the events tab now is called classic. So it sounds like to us, because a lot of us love like the racer, the way you have it right now. It's very popular mini game for you. But it sounds like they won't necessarily go away. You may have like a classic day or something. Is that what you guys have in
Yeah.
mind?
We've been calling them vintage. I didn't realize that on the app they showed up as a different name, but
Maybe it is
It's
vintage. Maybe I'm
vintage.
using the wrong
yeah,
word.
yeah, okay,
Okay.
vintage.
My apologies. Yep, they are.
No, 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 it's
Vintage it
okay.
is.
So, yeah, so, for us, it's a bit of an homage to the OGs, but also, you know, people love breaking out their Game Boy Advance simulators on their Nintendo Switch. I think that anybody who's a gamer appreciates the like more retro style, not that Atlas has been around that long, but the people who playing the game for 4 years, they might miss it. And honestly, the new people, it's a cool way to be like, hey, this is what it used to be like. So yeah, we will not be going like the games are built, so they don't need to be deleted, is my short answer.
Okay. And you mentioned during the last AMA that you might have like a mini game practice hall. Is that still kind of in the on the back
That's
burner in the
that's
plans?
that's definitely next year.
Okay.
Just to be honest, we again, I did it again, killing me. We just haven't designed it yet, like the
Okay.
UX of it. But the good news is that's not a hyper complicated feature because it's using the mini games we already have, just converting them to single player mode. And we're already designing these mini games to be compatible in single player mode, like these new versions of them. So like Racer, I don't want to give anything away. Have we shared screenshots of Racer at all? A little bit, right? It's pretty freaking cool. So yes. And then somebody asked, yeah, tough guy. Tough guy. I'm not making fun of you, like tough guy. You just asked the question. But yeah, the both vintage and modern, we're not going to call it modern. Fishing and fishing vintage will both count towards your fishing progress. And a part of me thinks that a practice fishing should also count to your progress of your monthly challenges. So you don't have to wait around for the tournament mode. You can go play single player when we do introduce that. But I would say after landmarks and after the UI overhaul, we are going to be spending some efforts redoing the onboarding of for new players. Again, we can probably do a lot of this simultaneously. After those three major initiatives, and of course, getting community feed out, which is already in progress, the next one is going to be this single player practice. That's going to be paired with some really cool things like putting chests on the map that you can open with Atlas bucks inside, and like we've got some cool things, which some of you in the community have suggested. So we're going to use that and evolve it.
So speaking of mini games, we've now experienced the groupings. You now have, these different, like Europe, for example, is now merged into one. North America is now merged into one. Your thoughts on how it's gone so far?
I would say, the pot sizes kind of speak for themselves. Our goal is obviously bigger and bigger pot sizes. We've seen a generally good increase in usage. Obviously, some people are maybe who are used to the smaller country, easy wins are not as happy. But truth is, you can't make everyone happy, and we want that competition.
But
The up,
Sami, you also mentioned that maybe you would, because you love more people getting rewarded. The more, the better. You said
Yep.
that in the last AMA. So will you perhaps look at adding another prize tier, perhaps like a
Yeah,
top 3,000 or top
yeah,
5,000?
we are actually
All right.
already looking into that.
Okay.
So that will probably happen by end of year. What we need to figure out is certain markets, like in South America, the only country that participates is Brazil.
Yep.
So right now the pot sizes are global, and I think our Brazilian fans would get even more so annoyed if they had to split their pot even smaller for a relatively small pot. So there's a couple things we need to figure out, but we could quite easily change the things in terms of the payout pots, payout tiers, and we are already looking into that. So what I like to do is get a few, like at least a month worth of data in. I typically try not to count the first couple weeks because those are always going to be extra enthusiasm. Wait for it to kind of settle, and then use that data to kind of decide like how big these pots can be. Because typically what happens is the people who are used to winning the at the top are the ones that get cut a little bit more. And so we want to balance it properly so they're not completely demotivated or anything like that. So we're already looking into it, but the short answer is yes. We're going to be
Sami, you mentioned Brazil, and Hatsu mentioned from Reddit, was asking about some Brazil questions. Will they always remain South America? Right now, he is concerned they're playing for 2 hours for 70 Atlas bucks for top 25, which he said
yeah.
is really bad. And it is. You're playing for 2 hours and you do really well and you win 70 Atlas bucks. So, uh, your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's about, well, first of all, there are other countries in South America. We just haven't released in those countries.
Okay,
So
okay.
inevitably South America will get more love. If you feel bad about being in South America, imagine, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But I would say once we start releasing in more countries, and I think the Atlas game starts going more viral, and there's just more players playing in these countries, it will sort itself out. But right now it's really difficult to justify mixing the pots just because you know I can't be more honest than I am, which is Brazilian ad rates are very, 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 very different from US, Mexico, Canada. And I mean, it's like, it's not even apples and oranges. It's like it's like apples and raisins, you know? And so there's things we just gotta balance and figure out. Um, but I hear you. I hear the players in Brazil, and all I can say is we'll look into it a bit more maybe this week and
Tommy,
see if
was there
there's
a reason
synergy.
why they weren't combined with North America? That question gets thrown out quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would say mostly because Brazil has a large player base and its ad revenues are like completely different from North America. So mixing the two, what it does is it actually makes the North American players be more competitive, and the net pot will actually result in less money for Atlas, and that may negatively affect how much we can pay out overall to all countries. And I think it's no secret. I've already mentioned that North America kind of carries mini games right now, from an ad revenue perspective.
And along those lines, going back to the starting pots for just a second, there was previously the international community, they were told that the pot disparity was because of the length of the mini games of the participation. Well, now that there's regions and everybody's group, they Europeans obviously noticed that they didn't get as big of a starting pot as we did here in North America. So are we ever going to see an adjustment to that? I mean, obviously Europe has done really well participation wise. But your
Yeah,
again, your
it
thoughts there.
it 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 actually comes down to again how, because at the end of the day, we're giving away Atlas Bucks that has real value, and it comes down to the ad rates in these countries. I'll give you guys the truth of it, which is Annalise, Elizabeth, and I looked at it, and if you actually look at the numbers for the Europeans listening in on this later, we actually realized the pot is too big. We started too big because the European ad rates are so low that, and so I joked with Annalise, is like, this is the problem looking into things, is like, you're kind of like open Pandora's box because you're like, wow, we're actually losing money on that market big time now. And it's in our best interest to actually lower the starting pot. So which we're not going to do, But all of this game and the sustainability of this game is kind of driven around what advertisers pay in each market. I don't think that I've ever hidden that or tried to skirt around that. And so that's the challenge of what we have to balance against, right? So my short answer is I don't think we're adjusting anything for Europe right now, or other than looking into expanding the prize tiers. But the payouts are
Okay.
kind of where they need to be for right now. Now, again, we're looking at global mini game sponsors and things like that, which could significantly change, right? Like then you're looking at ad revenue, but then maybe Walmart comes back and starts spending a bunch of money to be the banner in the mini game for the month of September, right? So there's a bunch of stuff we're working on. I'm looking into potentially hiring somebody dedicated to getting us mini game sponsors and things like that, right? So everything is up for improvement and change, but we gotta get there.
Can you speak to the amount? Says when we switched over to the regions, it was a big shock to the rest of the world. Even though here in the United States we're used to 2 and 3 hour mini games, but for the rest of the world they were used to 1 hour. And so now that they're 2 and 3 hours, but we've seen a lot of pushback on that. From your perspective, will we see any changes there, or is this is basically what it's going to be?
In 2026, mini games are going to go through the biggest change they've gone through since the launch of this company. That's all I can say. And all I can say is it's going to be hopefully more fun, which I've already said earlier. And there's going to be a real cost to losing. Because right now it's kind of like whoever can grind away the most wins. And that's not really what a tournament is. A tournament is more about win-loss ratios and things like that. So as we introduce practice halls, that will trigger a domino effect that we will rethink how many games work. So I think it's a moot point to talk about 1 hour versus 2 hour versus 8 hours over the long term. In the short term, we're going to keep it like it is. And by short term, I mean the next 90, 120 days. But the goal is once practice halls are live, we are coming back for mini games and we're going to make them like true tournaments. How
One
that
final
how that works out is TBD.
One final question on mini games, and we need to move on. We've got like 10
Yep.
minutes left. This comes from New Fault 6890. And many people complain they can't do mini games because they're at work or they're eating
Yep.
at a certain time. Will they be able to just pick a time zone and participate in a
So
game at a different time?
So what I just said prior is we're going to completely revamp it. So in the near future in 2026, you know, mini games could be much longer. And so yes, again, we're going to work through all of those kinks. And please, for everybody that has given us feedback to Shane and to Annalise, please continue to do so because that'll help us kind of think through the game design of what mini game tournaments 2.0 is going to be.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, let's move on to I gotta address ads because that is such a hot topic. I hate having to hit you up on this for every AMA, but for your players, this is so important. We're getting hit with 3 minute long ads that require 3 clicks to close. We're having to deal with this during mini games as well. Any updates there?
We've identified the suspected network thanks to everybody's help, and we plan to turn them off. Actually, I think this week, right, Elizabeth? We're going to talk to. The answer is the 3 minute long and the 5 second ad that takes 45 seconds to close. I've experienced it too. They all seem to come from one bad actor. And I told you guys last AMA that we're going to find these bad actors. We're going to call them out. So we have, I believe, they all originate around one particular bad actor. So we've never turned off a network before. So we just got to do some tests around making sure that doesn't screw up everything for everybody else. But yeah, we plan to basically take action on that before the next AMA.
Okay. Moving on to surveys. Nerdy3720 off Reddit asked, are we keeping the second survey vendor?
So there's the new survey vendor, and then there's the second survey vendor that currently sits on the web app. And that's kind of a way right now for you to do both. This current survey vendor that we're using, we've just noticed it have better UX. And keep in mind, for the OGs out there, it's all about helping new players get into this stuff. And sometimes with the old vendor, I couldn't even read the damn questions, you know? So I find myself using surveys more with this new vendor. And I just think the payouts are better. I've noticed some people talk about screen out costs or screen outs and things like that. So obviously there will be kinks when you launch something new, but generally we've seen survey tickets go down on our customer service records and things like that. So the data suggests that overall people are happy with this new survey provider. But if you still miss the old one, you can go to the web app, app.atlasearth.com, go to the free bucks tab, go to surveys, and you can find the surveys there.
Okay. How about AMP? Are there any words on adding businesses? I believe last time you added, is it called Cavo? Cavo?
Yeah, we added them
They
and
seem
then
to have disappeared, by the way.
we added them, we took them away. So behind the scenes, there is so much happening with AMP. I am not at the liberty to share everything. Let's see. What I can say is the short answer is 2026 yet again will be the year of AMP. It will be, I think, as loved as arcade. That's what I think. Um, and so there, I will kind of tell you guys, pardon the dust, because over the next couple months leading up to 2026, there will be we got to do a lot of technical changes on how AMP works. Um, you know what? Might as well announce it since I'm being a little weird about it, which is AMP, if you guys don't know, was actually in-house technology that Atlas Reality invented.
Right.
We actually have, since 2019, 19 patents on the technology, six of which have been issued, which is crazy. For a small company to have that many patents on this. The idea is to be able to earn in-game currency for shopping when you spend money in the real world, and to earn in-game currency, that technology has never existed until we created it. And so what we are doing with AMP is we've actually spun out that technology into a sister company, and we are white labeling that technology and enabling that technology to also go to other games, like potentially the Fortnites of the world and the Roblox of the world. And I'll say potentially because I'm not here to, you know, say anything about that. And what that does is by having more games on the platform, it attracts bigger and bigger retailers. So it's a win-win-win. It's a really massive thing we've been working on. Like, and just so you guys know, we've been talking to massive game studios who are super excited to have their own AMP store in their games. So just know when you guys start seeing the merchants start appearing in potentially Fortnite and Roblox and Farmville, just know that it is yours truly and the Atlas team that has basically licensed that technology out. And it's good for us, it's good for the technology, and it's good for players within Atlas Earth because that means AMP is going to become way bigger in terms of the merchants. And we're already talking to some big national merchants, bigger than any that have so far yet been on the platform. So
Okay.
the platform is about to take a life of its own. It's still owned and operated, or sorry, it's still owned by the same team, which is us. But it's exciting, and that's all I'll say for that matter. But it is we're gonna go through some like reincarnation of it because we've got to switch technology stacks and things like that. So you guys will see some messaging around that. But in 2026, I think everyone will be amazed by where that technology goes.
And in 2026, could there be a possibility where we could see this go global? I get asked that every AMA.
So we have AMP patents issued in China, Japan, Korea, Australia. There are certain markets. So I'll tell you this: it's much easier to bring AMP to Canada than to bring AMP to Korea, right? So there's just certain markets where Visa and MasterCard have more ubiquity. So the short answer is 2026 will probably begin the international rollout, but not like global for AMP.
Okay. I've got time for about a couple more questions here. Let's shift to LPUs real quick. Will we ever be able to place and remove an LPU if we find a better spot for it? We asked this on the last
The
AMA.
answer is yes, but that based on everything we're talking about, which we just talked about a shit ton of sorry, a lot of stuff we got to do. I would say that's not till like late next year, right? That'll be a
How,
when we get to it type of feature.
how about an LPU store? At one time, it was
Yes.
suggested where we might be able to go back and buy some of the previous LPUs that were out there. Is that something that would be a possibility?
That is something, and I'll trickle another idea that we've been talking about. This is not a promise, but since people watch the AMAs, we are thinking about doing some form of a trophy case of LPUs where you're incentivized to collect all three of each pack. And that trophy case may have a similar type of feature like the passport does, potentially, if you can think through that a little bit. Um, so I know people are going to react to that. It is something we're looking at very carefully. And of course, anything that involves the game economy, we have to think through. But there's something there that we're looking at. And again, that'll be
All right.
late next year.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much, Sami. Thank you, Elizabeth, Annalise, Sami, for coming on and doing this with us. I mean, we feel so connected to you and your staff when we're able to bring questions to you and have you be able to just speak honestly about
Listen,
them.
we love being the face of this. We want people to understand that we're in it too. We play it too. That's why, like, again, the Atlas games and everything else is just more efforts for you guys to see and hear more of us, get to know us better, and know that, like, we're not just out here, like I'm not trying to be a random billionaire or something like that. I want to build something that people love playing and being a part of. Like Atlas is a big part of my life, if not probably the biggest part of my life. Um, and so, yeah, we're just excited to be on this journey with everybody that plays the game.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to wrap things up for this episode of AMA number 3. Hopefully, we'll have a number 4 out in a couple of months. U.S. players, don't forget, we got fishing coming up real soon. And hey, this weekend, we've got the arcade event coming up. So make sure you get on that. But
I
anyway,
think it's live
until
now,
next,
isn't it? Yeah. Go,
is it?
yeah, go play some games. Get your
It is
Atlas
absolutely
books.
live. Yeah. You can tell he looks at the events calendar all the time, right?
What do you mean? I'm about to play some games tonight. I need to get my I got like I already did my survey missions, but yeah, I gotta get some of my arcade missions done.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, that's all the time we had with Sami for now. Until next time, so long, everybody.
Thank you.